Can we just get back to the lawyers being nasty to each other?
Sure.
I find that a major problem with your industry.
Oh, with my industry?
Well, I get dragged into it all the time.
Why?
Well, maybe I'm just CC'd in all these emails, but one lawyer against another lawyer, it's two dogs
Ugly.
going hammer and tong at each other. And then, from what I understand, you guys will do that all day and then go out and have a beer together at the pub together. And it's all cool.
Yeah.
You know?
That's why in court we call each other
So-and-so.
my learned friend.
My learned friend. My guest today is Sarah Bartholomeusz, the goddess of governance and the principal of Legal, a commercial law firm which, among other things, helps medical doctors to legally protect their patients, their practice and their profits. In 2014, Sarah was awarded the SA Telstra Businesswoman's Award in the startup category. She's the author of 3 best-selling books on governance, including Growing a Medical Practice from Frustration to a High-Performance Business. As board chair for the Catalyst Foundation and governance director for the APAC region of the Entrepreneurs Organisation, Sarah is committed to spending significant time supporting her community. She's also a podcast host, starting Accountants on Purpose in 2019.
Hi, I'm Sarah Bartholomeusz from Legal. The Accountants on Purpose podcast showcases inspiring accountants who are leaders in their field.
And then it just came to me like a bolt of blue.
What makes them tick?
Love it.
How did they get to where they are? I want to inspire. And what do they do now for their teams, their clients, and the world?
Today we are talking to Sarah Bartholomeusz about a whole range of things. This is actually our 3rd podcast that we've done.
It is.
It's becoming a regular thing. I love actually sitting down and talking to you, Sarah, because you're such an amazing person. And you've got an amazing story to tell and you do all these amazing things. And I feel in awe of you on so many different levels, but marketing mainly. I know that you're a lawyer, but it always comes back to marketing. And I look at what you're doing on Facebook and I look at your website and it's just going crazy. And now you're doing the podcast as well.
True.
And last time we got together, the tides actually changed because I felt like I was the expert. You've done heaps of podcasts in the meantime.
I have.
So you're well versed in this and you've got the radio announcer voice.
Do you know, I actually did student radio when I was at uni. So I'm very experienced in the podcast chair.
Good. Okay, well, can we just talk about the podcast to start with, please?
Sure.
Because how's it gone?
It's amazing.
Can I just talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
You've done a podcast with, believe it or not lawyers, but accountants.
Yeah.
Why did you choose accountants?
Well, I was thinking about my business journey to date. I've been in business for 6 years, and the main supporters that I have found in my practice is not other lawyers, but actually accountants. So accountants refer work to us and we have a symbiotic relationship. Mm-hmm. So it's been just a lovely way to give back and also hero a profession that doesn't get a lot of heroing.
Well, I mean, they must be the most, what's the saying? The accountants don't have any personality.
But you are one.
Well, I feel like I've got a personality, but I feel like I'm unique.
Uh-huh.
But I guess all the people that you invited on the show were really good anyway, and they've all got a good story to tell.
Yeah, and focusing on accountants who have a purpose that's higher than profit in their practice, with their teams, in the world, has made that a lot easier probably.
The thing that I loved, because I've listened to a lot of them, I haven't listened to the season 2, but I did like listening to all the quirkiness about, how these guys go home and practice guitar and listen to, and I'm listening to, well, there was one guy on there, I can't remember his name, but he was talking about how he loved listening to Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, yeah.
And
Matthew Holden.
Yes. And there was I went back and I listened to, I think it was a whole documentary on Netflix.
Yes, that's very good.
And it was amazing.
Yeah, 1 + 1 = 3.
Yes. And I listened to, like, the whole Netflix documentary was just absolutely riveting and told the whole story of his life, and music just sort of evolved out of his hard work ethic and his New Jersey upbringing, and it was just fascinating. I was glued to the series. So I was getting bits and pieces about those sorts of, side hustles that these people were doing, or sideline jobs, or interests that I had.
Passions.
Yeah, passions. And so I got a lot out of it from that point of view. And it was also nice to hear about other accountants and what their journey involves and what they think about and, what they feel like they specialise in. It's just nice to compare that to how I feel about what I'm doing.
Yeah, especially when you run your own show like you and you might not have many peers who are, or that you get the opportunity to talk to.
So today's about you. I don't want to do all the talking.
Sure.
What did you learn from that whole podcast experience?
I learned that it takes a lot of commitment and that it can be a lot of fun, and you can also have experiences with people that you never anticipated that are really special that then you get to share with your listeners.
So do you feel that your relationship with all of those people has gone to a deeper level?
Absolutely. There was one person who I was interviewing and we got to the end and I said, what's something that I should have asked you? She said, I don't know. I said, well, what would you say to your 18-year-old self? And she burst into tears. And she goes, you're trying to make me cry. And I said, no, I'm not. And I was like horrified. And she said, my mum died when I was 23 and my dad died when I was 25. And so I would say, you're going to be okay. And then I burst into tears. And then when she was leaving, she said, you're so lucky that you get to do this. And I'd never really thought of it like that until that moment.
Have you had any people from the other side of the globe contact you or people in Australia? Yes. Okay, can you tell us about that, please?
There was a firm from San Francisco recently that reached out to say, could they be part of the show?
Right.
And so we've gone back with the seasons that we've got coming up because we do it by season. It's sort of you either fit in or you don't. And we've got maybe 4 or 5 seasons in production at the moment. So, yeah, it's just sort of figuring out whether or not they fit in. Someone from the entrepreneur season I interviewed was from Canada. There was someone from New Zealand. So there's been a few international guests.
So these people from San Fran, are they lawyers?
Accountants.
Accountants over there? Oh, wow.
Yeah, people who want to be on the show.
Do you think you'll be able to line it all up?
I don't know. Well, we've done a few international interviews so far, so can't see why not.
Okay. What about, this is the one thing that I've noticed is from a personal point of view, it's been like doing a Toastmasters course. Do you relate to that?
I guess so, but I probably do a lot more speaking as a lawyer
anyway
than you need to maybe.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I feel like we got a lot of training in that at uni.
Do you think that, would you recommend people to doing it?
Yeah, definitely.
There's not too many podcasts out there?
I think there's a lot of podcasts out there, but I think if you know who your audience is and you want to add value for them and you know that you can, then just get over the imposter syndrome, which I had for about 2 years before I started it, and do it.
I was always a bit nervous and insecure and didn't like taking the floor in meetings, but that's all flipped around now. And all that's really happened for me is now I try to describe things in a storytelling format and people can sort of relate to that, and I get sort of more buy-in from people when they're listening to what I'm saying. And so now also, like before I'll give an answer to a question, if this is an interview or a podcast, it's all the sort of same sort of kettle of fish. I'll stop and I'll think to myself, is there a story that I can actually introduce into this situation? Does that
create what they call in radio the theatre of the mind?
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you used to have your own radio show.
Yes.
Can we touch on that?
Sure.
Okay, please tell us.
I decided I wanted to do a radio show when I was in the first year of uni, and I went across to 5UV at the time, the university radio station.
Yes.
And I said to the manager, I want a show. And she was like, well, we've already got all the shows allocated. But this guy, Steve Hocking, is looking for a co-host. And I was like, I'm it. And we were opposite. So we would just argue about everything. So our show was called Take It Outside. And it was at a glamorous time of like 11 o'clock on a Saturday night or something like that. But yeah, learned to panel then and talk on the mic without being really terrified.
Yeah, and so some of those skills are sort of being reinvigorated as part of your podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I've had, on my podcast, I've had people contact me from all around the world.
Yeah,
and
doctors.
It's been, and everyone wants to get on the bloody show. And I've had to push them back because but it's not like, this lawyer or accountant from San Fran. It's his agent. And you can just tell that they're in business of sending out 100 messages to everyone and just seeing who hooks up.
I had one of those people send me a message on LinkedIn, call the office twice and send an email one morning all before 9 o'clock. And I was
stalking you.
Give me time to respond, please.
I think that you fit perfectly into the podcast role. And I love that you're taking it to the next level and you're doing YouTube and Facebook. And I just think it's great. It's great. I mean, it's inspiring me because I've always just done it in a dark room with the lights out with my guests, and it's fantastic fun. And now all of a sudden I've got to, think of other things like where to look and what to say.
Yeah.
And am I wearing the right outfit?
You certainly are.
Now, season 1 was about accountants, mainly within the health sort of space. Is season 2 just general accountants?
No.
Or more accountants in the health space?
No. It's entrepreneurial accountants. Yes. So one of the guys I interviewed went to high school with Steve Jobs.
Oh, no way.
And lives here in Adelaide.
And plenty of stories to tell?
Lots of stories.
Mate, I'm in awe of Steve Jobs.
I know.
I love my iPhone.
Me too.
And I went and visited the mothership in San Fran.
Did you?
Oh, it was incredible. They've built this office in a ring in the middle of the scrub, and there's a car park underneath and there's solar panels on top, and it's just incredible. And I think it cost the same as what our hospital did here.
Yeah, okay. That's expensive.
Which my land tax bills are going towards recovering.
Correct.
Now, moving away from the podcast, just back to you legal, you're in the you specialise in the medical industry. Do you have any case studies with doctors you've been working on that you've really found that you've brought some value to the table that you can share with us?
Sure. There's sort of 2 ways that doctors come to us, and there's an example of a doctor who was working with another doctor in a practice and didn't have a shareholders agreement, and then one of the doctors just walked out and left. And so there's been this big kind of dispute we've been working with them on to try and work out how to split the assets and the value of the business. And it's been going for 3 years and cost a fortune. So that's not what we prefer to do, which is why we're on purpose. We want people to plan for every eventuality. Even though we do have a client, I was once reviewing her lease and said, this could go wrong, this could go wrong, this could go wrong. And she's like, I prefer to think optimistically. And I'm like, I understand that, but let's talk about why you even gave this to me to review in the first place. Let's try and think about what might go wrong and then try and avoid it going wrong.
Absolutely.
So then there's another doctor that we worked with in the Gold Coast who was quite entrepreneurial and wanted to set up her practice but had no idea what to do from a compliance point of view. And so we worked with her step by step to work through every legal document that she would need, including policies and procedures, having her website terms and conditions and privacy policy done, having proper employment and services agreements done, having her will up to date, and all these kind of foundation documents that give you a platform to thrive in your business. So we've created that now as a program that doctors can do, and it takes about 8 months to get the main 9 points of their business organised, including working with their accountant to make sure the structure's right and they're going to be paying the right amount of tax. No one wants to pay more tax than they need to, but you do need to be properly structured so that they can have that platform to grow from.
So are we talking pro forma documents?
They're not pro forma because we need to
customise them for everyone.
They're customised.
But what I'm getting at is, you've got a bit of a roadmap there with 9 points that everyone needs to sort of tick off.
Yes.
And
we've got because we do it all the time, we can do it at a more effective kind of rate and
Yeah.
more like personalised than just everyday lawyer probably.
Yeah, and what I'm finding is the more you specialise in an industry, I mean, the first couple of doctors that I worked with, I hate to admit this, but I didn't really know what I was doing.
No, you were just figuring it out.
But as you get files coming in from other accountants and then you're doing it all the time, you just get better and better at it.
Yeah, and that's like we even have kind of a stream for specialists and a stream for GPs, and like there's different kind of a stream for multiple owners versus single owners, and so that's how we've kind of created it, and it's called Thrive.
Thrive.
Yeah.
Okay, please. Is that like a link on your website, or how do you?
Yeah, people will find that.
Okay, and because I'm thinking of myself here, but have you got Thrive at the top of the documents?
No,
It's just that's Thrive. So when
it's
you
just like that's like rather than just coming to us for a one-off services agreement, it's just an opportunity.
Would you like to work through Thrive with us?
Yeah,
Who's going to say no to that?
I know, right?
Yeah, and then that's what doctors are time poor.
Yeah,
And they just want someone in their corner like yourself who goes and says, hey, you need to think of all these things. We've got systems and procedures in place to cover all of those. I mean, it must be tricky doing that because the employment law in Queensland would be different to the employment law in South Australia.
it's not that difficult.
Similar.
We've got lawyers all around Australia, so yeah, and
Okay.
and it's set up into practice, people, profit. So focus on getting the practice right, the people side right, so you can grow, and then making the money.
Perfect. You're really good at networking.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I've got to hand it to you. Everywhere I look, as soon as I look at Facebook every night, there's a new post. What's Sarah up to?
Not every day,
Well, it seems like that. It's at least once a week.
at least.
And you do a lot of travelling. You do a lot of public speaking.
I do.
Can you just go back to the networking thing
Sure.
and sort of just tell us what you've learnt from that whole – look, it seems like you've got your toe definitely in the water with the whole social media thing. What's worked for you and what hasn't?
There's a lot of questions there, but networking-wise, I think what I found is you can't put a different networking conference or session every week in your calendar that's different. Where you get value from networking is meeting the same people over and over again so that I get deeper relationships with them.
Okay.
So that then they sort of get to know, like, and trust you. And that's where networking kind of creates value, that where they think of you for things, whether that's a speaking engagement or Sarah might know somebody who is an accountant who specialises in doctors and property investment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll ask her. So people thinking of you as an expert in certain areas that you want to be thought of an expert in.
But it seems like you're sort of going back to old school networking.
What do you mean?
Well, say there's a drinks function at the wine centre.
Yeah.
You'll go there and you'll bump into people from Adelaide that you meet on a regular basis and spend time with them and hang out with them.
But you were talking more about social networking.
Oh, well, yeah. That's the sort of the thought that came to mind when we started talking about it is just the whole, like with your presence on Facebook and probably LinkedIn as well. I haven't checked that too much, but and then I don't know whether you're on Twitter or whatever, but are you getting leverage off of being so active in that space online?
So I suppose how I use it for business, which I think is your question, is I have groups on Facebook that are like people that we can help.
Are we getting onto BFD here? Or is it someone else? What are some of the groups that we're talking about?
I've got a group that I run called You Legal for Doctors.
Hang on.
And anyone on Facebook can join that. So I've got about 800 or 900 people on there.
Really?
And they then ask me questions if they need help with things, or I put things in there that are interesting to them that they might want to talk about.
Yeah.
Or pro forma documents that they can kind of create or might need.
I'm worried about that because I feel like you'd be flat out answering 800 questions every night.
No, it's not
It's not like that?
No, and people answer each other's questions.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think you can use social media for that sort of thing as well.
So, but anyone can join the group?
Doctors.
They have to be doctors?
Yeah.
Okay. This sounds very similar to BFD. Is it? It's sort of modelled on that to some extent?
Yeah, sort of.
Works
I
in
suppose
tandem.
where I was getting questions that came from BFD that I could answer, but knew that there was a wider audience that would be interested.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, well, why don't we just create that as a separate channel?
Okay. Are you out most nights of the week networking?
No.
One night?
I
two?
aim for one.
Okay. And you limit it?
Yes.
Do you do long lunches?
I 2 hours max.
Yeah, okay. I know this is a common thing.
Maybe once a week. No, it's a lawyer thing. Not 6 hours.
It was timesheets, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Mm.
But we don't do those.
So you limit it. You must get lots and lots of invitations, but you work out strategically which ones are going to fit best with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and my travel schedule.
And are you lining up with you know how there's a real, like Adelaide's trying to become a San Francisco and is it stone and chalk or something?
Oh, yeah.
Are you part of that movement?
I have clients who are, but not really.
Not so much yourself. Okay. Cool. We've touched on the podcast on the accountants. Now, that's right, 75 books read in 2019.
Yes. That was a lot of books. And
that was on your Christmas card, wasn't it?
It was on my Christmas card. But what I found from that, I wanted to read 52. I wanted to read a book a week, right? But I found that I was probably finishing books that I wouldn't have if I didn't have that goal. Like I'd just read it to the end just because I said, it was just another tick.
And we're not talking audio books, we're talking books in the flesh, like
Both.
on your Kindle.
Both.
Or okay, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You wouldn't spend much time in the car though.
I don't.
Well, I guess you could be listening
as I walk,
as you run. Okay. And now, so let's deep dive in the books.
Sure.
Which books do you think are must-reads for me?
For you.
Or for anyone out there?
I really liked Michelle Obama's book.
What's that one called?
It's called Becoming.
Becoming, okay.
And just she talks about this moment where she was standing with a Secret Service agent and he turned to her and said, "Ma'am, your life's about to change." And for the first time ever, she saw the presidential cavalcade, which is all of the ambulance, everything, like there's police cars, there's the car that they go in. And she did not realise at that moment that how much things were going to change, like that she couldn't even just go and have a cup of tea in the garden anymore.
This is before her presidential journey began.
Just as it was
they're
starting.
driving down the road to pick her up in her first public appearance or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was just really interesting. Like, never would have known that or thought about it.
I think I watched another Netflix documentary on Barack Obama. I'm fascinated by that whole story, where he grew up and the whole story behind it.
I know.
He's very confident, amazing president.
Great public speaker.
Great public speaker. Okay, another book?
There is another one. I never remember the name of this one, so I did screenshot it to remind myself. It's called Invisible Women, Exposing Data Bias in a World Designed for Men by Caroline Perez. And it was really interesting from the perspective of how things can be better when diverse viewpoints are taken into account. So an example that she talks about is there was a country in Denmark that had always designed the way that the snow was cleared for commuters.
Mm-hmm.
So the majority of people who commute from the suburbs into the city on snow days are men, because generally people who stay at home are women, just from a kind of cultural point of view, and older people. And they had in the city council this project where they were thinking about things in a different way. And so they cleared the snow one winter from the footpaths first and then to the road. And they found that the number of hospital admissions was dramatically reduced because people who were pushing prams or pushing wheelchairs or walking dogs weren't slipping.
So simple.
I know. So that reading that book, not so much the feminist side, but just the diversity of thought side has made me think I'd like to write a book about that somehow, about how using different perspectives can create a better world.
Yeah. Have you seen Inside Bill's Brain?
Yes.
Netflix. Did you like that?
I liked it.
I think that he really sort of does a similar sort of assimilation to what you're talking about with Melinda.
Yes.
Because he designed that new toilet.
Yes.
And she was saying all these points of view that the women think of when they go to the toilet.
Yeah.
And Bill hadn't even considered them as like, if there's a chance that someone's going to look over the top of the toilet door, women won't use it.
Yeah.
So Bill's going, I didn't even think of that. So, I can
Bill
see what
Bill
you're
is diverse in a different way. I suspect he's got neurodiversity, so he already thinks in a different way than other people.
Yeah, he does. But did you think, something I took away from that series was how amazing is it that he loads up a big bag of books that he's
I know.
And he takes a week and goes and stays in a cabin on the side of a lake. It looked like it didn't have any real facilities. It was tiny, just a bed and maybe a desk and a kitchen. And he was just out in the elements, living there and reading and then writing down what he was learning and all the thoughts that came into his mind as he was. I mean, I'd love to do that, but it's difficult with kids and getting away and having a week to myself. But when they move out, it'd be great to have some time and come up with some amazing ideas and do that sort of thing. Any business books?
Oh, I read a lot of business books.
Any for me?
Good question. I can send you the list.
Okay.
I've got a list of all 75.
Maybe we should put that in the show notes.
Yeah, happy to.
Okay. And, I know it'd be difficult to do all of it, but maybe like the top 5 or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, that'd be really useful, I think, because I think we all underestimate the power of what you can learn from reading a good book. It's refreshing, it's escapism, it's thought-provoking.
One book I read every year is Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Do you?
By Richard Kiyosaki. Yep.
Yeah. That's a great book, isn't it?
And I find that's one that I get different stuff out of reading it every December.
It's unusual for you to read it too because it's sort of it slams education and sort of promotes hard work and entrepreneurialism, doesn't it?
But the
rich dad was educated and he was always the poor dad was educated and he was always poor. But the other one was a hard worker and invested in things. Is that the moral of the story? And
another one which maybe is related to business but also related to change is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
Wow. Can you give us an insight into what?
It's about how just doing the same thing over and over isn't going to give you any different result.
You're doing, what is it? Madness is doing the same thing.
Yeah, but that you do need to change the way you think.
Okay.
To have change. And it's about making that leap and making the change.
Richest Man in Babylon?
I read that too.
Yeah, that is amazing, isn't it? I mean, every time you go to a seminar and someone's up on stage and they're saying, what's the most
impactful book?
Yeah, and Richest Man in Babylon. I mean, it's a great read, but I think it's limited. But it is refreshing. Every time something goes wrong, I feel like, why did I listen to that person to give me advice on some topic?
I know that they had nothing.
That was good from that point of view.
And that's the other thing that Rich Dad Poor Dad talks about. He's like, if you do nothing, like you can get all these advice from all these like armchair experts, and if you do nothing, nothing's going to change. No.
He's big on making some bold decisions.
Yeah.
And change. We're still on this book thing. Have you read Barefoot Investor?
Yes.
What did you think?
I love it.
You love it?
I am about Scott Pape.
Have you got the ING
I want to interview him.
splurge card and all of that?
I've got splurge written on mine. I'll show you.
Every now and then when I meet, there you go. They stick out by a mile, don't they?
It's got splurge written on it,
right,
and then that's the joint account.
All right. I think that Barefoot Investor is amazing. Like, it gets everyone thinking about money and fees and debt and all that. I think that he falls down in property.
Yeah, he's not really a big fan.
Like, I know he's
but then
big
he
on
owns a
investing.
giant farm.
Debt-free. And so how do you fit that into the equation? And I'm in his Facebook group now.
Oh, wow.
And every second question is, so my husband and I have sat down and we've decided we're going to buy a property. And like, so what's the first step? What can people in the group
Does Scott
recommend?
do anything in there, or it's
He's never there.
No, it's more like people answer each other's questions.
Yeah, and half the time they're getting the wrong advice.
Yeah.
But you get really passionate people providing answers, and they think they're doing a great job. And I think people love all of that. They're not too worried that Scott's not answering their question. They're just getting other people of like-minded to Scott answering their questions. Okay, BFD.
Yes, Business for Doctors.
Yes. Can we talk about that, please?
Sure.
What is BFD?
Business for Doctors is a group. BFD, it is. You're right. That's what the logo says. It started as a Facebook group. It's only for doctors, so I'm not in there.
But you have a lot to do with it.
Yeah, it started by Dr. April Armstrong, and I met April when we both won a Telstra Business Women's Award in 2015. We both met at the Nationals. And I remember she was in Adelaide. It must have been 5 years ago. So, it was very close to when that happened. And she was in Adelaide. We were sitting in the Mantra, and she's like, I've just started this Facebook group. And I was like, okay. And she goes, you've got to be part of it, like part of the people who help these doctors. And I said, okay. And she was showing me the number of people just adding themselves. And it was like, I think that's the first time I've ever really seen what going viral is, because
it literally went viral.
It started with, one person. She started it, and we were watching the thousands of people being added. Like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
She's like, this is going to be something. And I just remember thinking, no, it's not. And then looking at it, it's like, wow, what an amazing community. So there's 25,000 of them now. 25,000.
She organises get-togethers and seminars and training camps, and so it's a funny story, but I sat in on one with a bank manager friend of mine. We got invited
in Adelaide.
Yes, in Adelaide. Yes. It was in Highmarsh Square.
Okay.
We went along, and it was quite interesting. But she prepped us, and she said, I've got approval from all the doctors that you can sit in on our meeting.
Yeah, it's really very
excuse me?
Doctors
I thought we were
only.
Fine, welcome with open arms. But we got this exclusive invite the same. So we sat down in the corner. But the thing that I picked up from that is she just got up and spoke, and she knew every Medicare code.
She's incredible.
That there was.
Yeah. And
all these doctors in the audience didn't have the same level of knowledge that she did. And she just overwhelmed them with her knowledge of what consult to charge when, and when to do a care plan, and how to get the maximum amount of revenue out of your patient without breaking any of the rules and with flying under the radar. I mean, I might be exaggerating, and there's no...
not doing anything dodgy.
No, exactly. But she knew it back to front. And so now I know that she has a course, because some of the doctors in one of the medical practices that I look after went and attended it and reported back, and it was like, I don't know, maybe $350 for a member, $700 if you're not. But you go there, and she gets you up to speed with all of that Medicare stuff, which they didn't know about, and they're working in that industry. She just had such a high level of knowledge. I've never been able to break into the group.
Well, because you're not a doctor.
Well, no, because there's other accountants who are embedded in that.
Suppliers. Yeah, right.
Which I'm fine with, but I'm always fascinated at this group because it demonstrates to me the thirst for business advice that the doctors have. And
also that they support each other. Like, I don't know that other professions are the same. Like, that people want to grow together in business.
They do.
I feel like my profession, for example, is extremely competitive, and I'm a lawyer. You expect that. I love that doctors are willing to learn how to grow their businesses all together. And support each other.
Yes. Can we just get back to the lawyers being nasty to each other?
Sure.
I find that a major problem with your industry.
Oh, with my industry?
Well, I get dragged into it all the time.
Why?
Well, maybe I'm just CC'd in all these emails, but one lawyer against another lawyer, it is absolutely, it's two dogs
Ugly.
going hammer and tong at each other. And then, from what I understand, you guys will do that all day and then go out and have a beer together at the pub together. And it's all cool.
Yeah.
You know?
That's why in court we call each other
So-and-so's.
my learned.
But do you have that? Do you always go toe-to-toe with the
It's
lawyers?
true. That's true.
Is it?
Yeah, we call each other our friends.
My
because
learned friend.
You've got to just
Show
have
respect.
an intellectual argument. It's not personal, is the theory.
But you're not a barrister, so you don't have to get up in front of everyone and...
I have, but I don't do anymore because I try and prevent people getting in dispute. So I started out as a dispute lawyer in doing cases
Really?
in court, but I hated the fighting all the time. I wanted
You're too
to
nice.
help people prevent that fight because I've just seen it kill people's businesses.
You're a helper, not a fighter.
Exactly.
I find it
I want to
really...
protect people. I don't want to.
I hate it. And it's the fees in these battles.
I know. It's
And you're arguing over the
outrageous.
most minute little items. And I had an example last week. The guy said to me, Kym, I said, look, just let this go. You'll be so much... Because it was affecting his health.
Yeah, not good.
And he said, it's a matter of principle.
No. When people say that to you, run. It's not true. It's a matter of principle until it costs $40,000 to settle a $400 dispute.
And then maybe it's not about principle when it cost me $40,000.
Exactly.
I'll let the principle go.
Like, at what point are you willing to let the principle go?
So you step in and preempt... Well, sorry. You try to avoid that nasty confrontation.
Yeah, so for example, here's a good example of a matter that came through this week. We had, so we also work with allied health as well. So we had a psychologist who had a junior psychologist do some stuff that she thinks she might need to report to APRA.
Oh, my goodness.
And I want her to call me as soon as that happens so I can mitigate any damage. I don't want to be her to be calling me once she's got the letter from APRA.
You want to get in beforehand.
And put a cap on it.
Yeah. And then what will you do?
Well, we'll write some letters,
To?
the employee,
Yeah.
and then we'll look to see whether or not she does need to report it to APRA
Okay.
and properly advise her. She was having trouble with her insurer. They don't tell you. They tell you to get advice. Her professional association wasn't helping. So, in those cases, we want to get it early and we want to get the letter out quickly.
Do you get involved with the sort of, I don't know, medical negligence?
No.
At all? No, okay. All right. Yeah, APRA is quite interesting in all of that. Like they're actually, I see them, well, I've got one doctor at the moment that they're not happy with. He's been doing some stuff which is outside of the regular GP stuff and they've come down on him like a ton of bricks and they're asking about this, that and the other. And it's quite interesting to watch it all unfold. I
Yeah.
mean, we're just on the side providing information.
One thing I find with APRA is that if you get a communication from them and either you or an advisor replies to them quickly in a way where you're contrite, terribly sorry, I didn't know I was doing anything wrong, I'll immediately address it. They're incredibly good to deal with. And that's the same
That's what they
with
want,
most
isn't it?
regulators. Exactly.
They just want everyone to toe the line. If you've made a mistake,
Yeah.
let's fix it, move on, just don't do it again.
And we've got another client that got a letter from APRA. So this is like the late bit where they're a dentist and they had been using marketing methods which were outside APRA's guidelines.
Can you elaborate on that?
So APRA has quite strict guidelines about how you do
not allowed to-
testimonials,
You're not allowed to endorse things.
those sorts of things. And
So they were
using influencer marketing, and people were saying things like, "My teeth have never been so perfect," and promising an outcome is not allowed in medical.
Yeah, and was
marketing.
that on the dentist's website?
Yeah, on their Insta
On their Instagram.
and website.
So someone else had picked up on it and
presumably
probably reported
it.
to APRA.
Yeah, that's right. So that was a case where we just have to change things. But the dentist, understandably, wants to market their business.
Yeah, so how do you do
You
it?
can't do it like an ordinary business.
Is there any way around it?
You're just understanding what the boundaries are and working within them is the way around it.
So you can't say we're going to do an amazing job and we're better than the people down the road. You have to just sort of say, if you're going to do an Instagram, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Something simple like that.
Yeah,
A
and you
statement
can't
of
say
fact.
things like,
As-
only a few appointments left. No. And if you make an offer, you have to have terms and conditions.
Okay. So now with the BFD conferences and things like that, I presume you're a bit of a guest speaker.
I am a guest speaker.
And what are some of the topics you get up on stage and talk about?
Sure. So I talk about like 5 ways to protect your practice legally.
Okay.
Talk about how to use social media in a way that's not going to get APRA on your back. It's an interesting one. I talk about those sort of like director's duties. So doctors often run their practice through a company, like talking about what their risks are in addition to being a doctor for running a company. They're the sort of things, managing risk.
Okay. And I guess you're away for a few days and you interact with a lot of doctors and it's quite a nice, enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, so this year at the BFD conference, I'm the MC for the award ceremony.
Really?
Yeah.
Just go from strength to strength. That's great. Where is the conference?
In Melbourne.
Okay. Fantastic. That's great. Have you been an MC before?
I have not. Only at weddings.
Well, not just BFD, but you're also involved in EO.
Yes.
Adelaide. Tell us about that. It's some sort of entrepreneurs organisation.
It's a global not-for-profit called the Entrepreneurs or member-based business, that organisation that helps entrepreneurs work better.
And now, is this the organisation where you've got to turn over something like $1 million US? So that's a hell of a benchmark, isn't it?
It's a good benchmark.
Well, everyone's quite well heeled that's going to these sorts of shows.
I think that's not necessarily the case. It sort of depends on your profit. Turnover doesn't
they could be making a loss, but hitting
profit. That's right. So it's more about that when your business has that turnover, you have the same
mindset
issues in your business as well.
Okay.
Like you've got a certain number of staff, you've got a certain issue with premises, you've got all those kind of business things that you can help each other with. You're using the same software programs.
Is this, because I think it's split, isn't it? There's a group that work with under 40s and then there's over 40s, isn't there?
That's YPO.
YPO. Is that similar organisation or different camp?
It's
not
different.
Related at all.
So with EO, you have to be a shareholder and founder, whereas YPO has execs in it as well.
Okay. And did you get invited into that as a mentor?
I started in EO as an accelerator. So when I very first started my business, when you have a turnover of between 250K up and they give you the tools to grow.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was why we grew so quickly, I think.
So you started as the student and became the teacher.
It's not really a teacher. It's like peer-to-peer learning rather than teaching. But
okay. But they do have mentors in that as well, don't they?
Yeah.
But okay. So you're just meeting with like-minded people and networking and okay. And do they have many people in Adelaide as part of it?
About 65.
Okay. And Australia-wide?
I don't know how many Australia-wide.
But you went to some get-together with them, I saw on Facebook, in France?
Yeah. So I'm on a global committee for EO. So it's a member run as well. So I'm the APAC governance chair.
But hang on, let's just stop for a moment.
Yeah.
How did you go from being
a member
to being
a member leader?
Member leader on a global.
Yeah, so it was a worked up, I suppose.
You paid your dues and you got promoted?
Yeah. Yes, I applied for roles and was accepted.
It's a common theme here, isn't it? People like having someone like you that's a role model, that's a leader, that is at the forefront of all of these sorts of organisations or at a board level.
Yeah. Well, it's
you're getting
learning.
Used to it now.
It's good learning. It's not always fun.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
Right?
People, you have to deal with all the stuff people do.
You got to read through all the minutes and notes
there's always a lot
have something to contribute when you catch up so that you're not just sitting in the corner.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, is there anything else? I've got to the end of my questions.
No. Now you're going to ask me, what should you have asked?
That's the question I was going to ask. Are there any questions that I should have asked you that I haven't? No?
No, I don't think so.
That's fine.
What would I say to 18-year-old Sarah?
Oh, yes. We have a tearjerker on our hands here. Is there anything you'd give advice to young Sarah?
I think it's really important to listen to your intuition, even though that sounds a little bit kind of woo-woo, but that you need to give yourself space to kind of listen to it and not just jump from thing to thing, be guided by.
Yeah. I know, I think I know where you're going with that, but is it like you need to be true to yourself?
Yeah, I think so. And not, your core.
Yeah, I find that for me, I might not want to do something that everyone's doing because it doesn't fit right with me. From a sort of, it's not what I'm here for. And
sometimes that can be hard. So I guess an example which may not sit well with you either, of something that my husband and I have recently decided to do that's very different from what everyone else is doing, is after reading The Barefoot Investor and Robert Kiyosaki's book, we sold our holiday house and we sold our home and we bought a smaller home, which is the opposite of what everyone else who is my age is doing. So we would have money to invest in the asset column.
Okay.
And bring our personal overheads down.
So you don't have to work as hard.
So the idea is that we'll be able to retire in the next 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
By just doing the opposite of what everyone else is doing. But I find it like when my friends buy houses with tennis courts and pools and stuff, I go to David, I'm just like, are you sure we're doing the right thing?
Was it your idea? His idea?
Well, we sort of came to it by me reading these books and saying, why don't you read them and we'll talk about what we got out of them. And what we got out of them was we were just spending a fortune on rates for a house we didn't attend very much anymore since the kids were at school and they had birthday parties every weekend and those sort of things. And when we bought that house, there was no Airbnb, but now there were opportunities to get away.
Oh, I see.
That didn't have a $500,000 commitment for something that wasn't growing either.
Wow.
So that's what I mean. Like, it can be hard to do things that are different to what other people are doing.
And you're happy that that's all tracking in the right direction?
We love our new house.
Right.
So, yes.
That's a good decision.
Yes.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's actually really refreshing to hear that because I'm on the completely other end of the spectrum.
I know. That's why I was like, should I tell you about this?
No, but how's that? Like, I can actually see the benefit in it, and sometimes there's a really small component of me that thinks, hey, wouldn't that be amazing to not have a mortgage? And if I wanted to take 6 months off and travel through the Amazon or whatever, I could. I can't at the moment.
But different types of freedom, I suppose.
I think that we're still going to end up in the same place, but we're going to take a different route.
Yeah.
Because I want to retire young too.
Yeah.
But I'm going like crazy.
Yeah.
To sort of do it in a different way. But at the end of the day, everyone's going to have a great life living in Australia. We won the lottery.
We are so lucky.
And it's like even the people that are on the dole don't really have that much different lifestyle to what we have, and they've got time. So there's a
maybe less
balance.
Trips to France.
All right. Well, Sarah, this has been an amazing chance to sit down and go through all of this with you. Thanks for being my guest today.
You're welcome.
I've learned a lot more about you today than I
expected.
Knew before. Yes, I have. And we've got a lot in common. It's been really good. So thanks ever so much.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast today. If you're still listening, you can find the show notes on our website, ulegal.com.au. You're welcome to go ahead and subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with anyone that you think might benefit from it, anyone that you think is open to helping us create a world with a purpose that's higher than profit. If you're an accountant on purpose, feel free to find our Facebook page and join our community.